Recorded live from deep in the heart of Texas. Welcome to the Clover Tech Podcast, with another conversation that brings together the firearm industry and community. Are you ready? Hope so, because here we go.
What's up, crew? Welcome to another Clover Tech Podcast. It is June 12th, 2024. Special edition here, powered by all you guys out there. So if you are feeling so inclined, you can super chat, super thanks, become a YouTube channel member, or jump over and shop some cool things over at clovertech.com. Proud, of course, to be a member of the Firearms Radio Network. And you can go check all the cool podcasts out over there, firearmsradio.net. We've got Department of Numismatics going to be in the house with us today. We're going to talk guns. We're going to talk gold and coins and all kinds of cool stuff here for an hour or maybe even two, as folks are filing out there in the live world while we're recording. Remember, you can throw your questions and whatnot out there in the chats, and we'll try to get to them. If you are in the replay world, audio or video, podcast replay world, odds are there is a comments section below, so don't forget that you can always jump down and comment, be a part of the conversation. So let's get the Dawn in the house, the Department of Numismatics. By the way, you can click the tag in the title as well as probably a link in the description.
Either morning or
hey, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, good morning, afternoon, evening to everybody out there in the Second Amendment community, as well as the precious metal and coin collecting community. Thank you for allowing me to be on this podcast with you today.
You bet, man. I think we're gonna have some fun. So I'd like to kick things off with my guests on these podcasts, since we are a gun channel, and just get a little bit of backstory, history on our guests and their experience. So walk us through your journey, if there is any, as it pertains to guns, as it pertains to firearms. Did you grow up around them? What was your first experiences? How has maybe that morphed or evolved over the years? That sort of thing.
I guess to probably started in my childhood, with the typical Red Ryder type BB gun, I guess, and Dad also got me a Sheridan.
Oh, nice.
Pellet gun.
Yeah, that's premium.
Yeah, I forgot the exact name of it. It was a Sheraton Silver Streak or something like that, but beautiful pellet gun. And to this day, I wonder where it went. But no, he got me, and he tried to get my brother started, but he didn't want anything to do with it. But started off with pellet gun, and then we graduated to 22. He had a Ruger, Mark IV, I want to say. Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about the earlier models of that series, but
how long
in there.
How long ago was it, you think, roughly?
We're talking early 80s.
Oh yeah, definitely not a Mark IV. That's new. So
okay,
80s was probably a Mark II, maybe a Mark III. Of course, it could have been Mark I too. A Mark I's been around forever, but up to a 3, maybe. I can't recall exactly when the 3s came around.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4 is fairly new. 4 hasn't been around but 15 years. Help me out there in the chat if you know, but I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. Anyway, yeah, keep going. Side tangent there. That's good, and that's gonna happen with these chats, because I try to keep things organic. So
sure,
we chase rabbit holes sometimes. It's okay.
Oh, I'm good with it, totally. So, so we went out. We lived in Kansas at the time, and there's some farmland. Actually, my Uncle Fritz, he had farmland, so we went out there And I think Uncle Fritz had a 1022 and probably something else. I honestly don't remember.
Mhm.
My dad had some other, larger calibers, but he wouldn't bring them out because obviously, my brother and I were too small and couldn't handle them. So just stayed with 22s for a while. And then my dad being in active duty Army, we left the States to go live in Germany for 4 years during the 80s. So
Oh
didn't
wow.
have any did have any no interaction with firearms directly
Mhm.
while being in Europe. We were stationed in um, Lewisburg, north of Stuttgart, where the Porsches are made. And a funny,
Oh
ironic
wow.
story is we lived there. We lived in Germany for 4 years, that close to the Porsche factory, and we never took a tour of it.
Yeah, that life happens sometimes, I guess.
Yeah,
With
and
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, about the month before we left Germany to come back to the States, we were all like, "Hey, wait a minute, we haven't visited the factory." So my dad looked into it and said, "No, they're in their like maintenance month where they shut the factory down to do maintenance and upgrades and whatever."
Mhm.
So we missed the window on that.
Now, was this early '80s, mid '80s, late '80s?
This was early to mid '80s. Yeah,
Really?
so
Okay.
mhm.
So that's
it was still
interesting.
it was still West Germany.
Yeah. That's interesting. I have an uncle served in the army that was stationed in Germany at that time as well. And I don't exactly know his MOS or whatever, but I know it has something to do with tanks.
Mm, okay.
Um, so I'm like, small world. I wonder if he was around there somewhere at that time. So like that's kind of neat.
Well, they might have crossed paths because usually every year they have the big. I don't know if what's called now and whether or not they still have them, but they have what's called Reforge. That's
Hmm.
the big NATO type exercise where they do combined arms
Right.
with the U.S. Army and a lot of the neighboring NATO countries, and it includes tanks. So my dad very well could have crossed paths with your uncle. He was with the 93rd Signal Brigade and then got transferred over to the 51st Signal Brigade. So he was in
Right.
Signal Corps.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I don't remember. I don't know if my uncle has ever said. And if he did, I don't remember. So I just know the 30,000 foot view of the thing. Uh, Sykes out there with the '80s ladies. Yeah, slip of the tongue there. Uh, Gypsy Wolves said never had a pellet gun, so I guess they thought I would shoot my eye out. First time firing a weapon was Marine Corps. That's pretty common. Pretty common. First
Mm-hmm.
experience being military. Says quickly graduated to the Mark 19. So very very cool. Um, so yeah, what y'all got back? I guess stateside, and you got all of that. Um, what does your firearm journey, your gun culture journey look like as an adult?
High school, my JROTC program, we had a
Oh, okay.
program and we shot 22, so kind of got back into that. And after graduating high school, went to college, didn't touch anything, didn't really do anything firearm related until I turned. And this is we moved to Virginia from Germany.
Mhm.
So I went to high school and college in Virginia. College, nothing with firearms. But as soon as I hit 21, I bought my first gun, and it was a pistol because uh, in the state at the time, and please correct me, it's 21, 18 to buy a rifle, shotgun, etc. But in the Commonwealth of Virginia, they like being called Commonwealth.
Mhm.
You have to be 21 to purchase a pistol. So when I
Yeah.
hit 21, I was still in college. I went out and bought a pistol, and it was at the time they were just bringing in the CZ75s,
Oh wow.
and I
Okay.
got I
Yeah.
got a really good deal. So it was the early models of the CZ75s. What years you or you and your audience will know a whole lot more than I do, and beautiful pistol. I mean, the trigger on it was so crisp, so clean.
Uh huh. Yeah.
It was actually, and it was all metal frame, metal slide. and it's I want to say 4.5-inch barrel. Can't quite exactly remember.
It's something like that.
But it was awesome, simple, easy pistol to operate, and being all metal, help with the recoil mitigation and everything. And it was, sincerely, it was a good first gun of my own.
Right.
And regretfully, many years later, I sold it. I'm such a dummy. I should have kept that.
Most people do. It's one of them situations where life happens, man. Unfortunately, if you're lucky enough to still have, your first or whatever, that's, you're a fairly rare duck usually, because once you start getting out in the world, and especially you get a family, things like that, situations come up, you need money, and that's part of what we're talking about today too. Is
sure,
there are a few things, I think, in this world that you're not going to lose money on, and considering you buy things for the right price, guns are definitely one of those.
Yep, definitely. Just to jump through really quick, I'll make quick. So after college graduating, I pretty much just kept that pistol. I did buy a Sig P239 for carry. They no longer make those. Another beautiful, the original classic Sig P series. And those two were pretty much what I had until I sold the CZ. And then I went out, and that time Smith & Wesson just introduced manufacturing of ARs. So I bought the I was the first year, the what do they call it? The MP15A, I think. Yeah. So it had the government profile barrel, not the sporty one that the current one had. So
right.
And I've had that rifle ever since, and that's the one when I go to, if I take any classes or just go to the range, that's kind of my go-to guy until I was introduced to competition shooting, specifically USPSA, Steel Challenge, multi 3-gun rimfire challenge, and then that's kind of where everything exploded.
Right. So
went out and got a. Oh, please.
Do you still have the Smith & Wesson?
Oh yeah, I still have it.
Still have that one. Okay, great.
It's beautiful. Put a rail on it and got an aim point. Forearm or vertical grip. Rail system. I changed out the stock and the pistol grip. I'm a big fan of Bravo Company and their products. So pretty much that thing got Bravo
BCM.
Company.
BCM. BCM.
I'm sorry. Is that taboo to call out companies like that?
No,
I'm sorry.
not really. No.
Okay.
Not really. Potentially gets hairy if we start giving website URLs or something like that. But mentioning companies by name, not a problem. And you're not stepping on any toes, because the special editions here, not sponsored, obviously, by anybody. So it's all good. Those are the Smith & Wesson's solid rifles. I don't know about, too much about the really modern stuff, but, especially 10, 20 plus years ago, maybe even, I don't know how long they've been making them now, but for a while, really good stuff.
That was 2005 or 2006.
Yeah, about 20 years ago then. Yeah.
It's amazing.
So those, definitely when they first came out, like I said, not a lot of experience with the newer stuff, but can't go wrong for the money. Let me back up. Really good rifles for the money.
No,
there are much better rifles out there. Don't get me wrong.
Of course,
for the money,
of course.
Really good deal.
So I finally got started competition shooting. Like I said, USPSA Steel Challenge, multi-gun, rimfire. So the collection kind of exploded at that point. I built the, custom 1022 for rimfire.
Nice.
Built
what? And I'm going to interrupt a lot because
that's fine.
I don't take notes with this. Custom 1022. So did you buy a 1022 and then change every part on it, or did you start from an actual receiver?
I bought the cheapest entry level 1022 you can get, and then
okay,
tricked it out.
Worked off of it. Gotcha. Yeah, that's fine. That's pretty common.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. Stripped it down, put a bull barrel, put a nice style stock on it, and extended magazine release, extended slide handle. It's
Right.
all the little competition stuff you do to shave a half second here or there or whatever.
Right.
Um,
Right.
does it really matter? In rim fire and steel challenge shooting that, you're up there, ping, 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 and that's it.
Right.
And then
Right.
went out and got what I currently shoot for competition, a Glock 34 Gen 4, put
Nice.
a magwell on it, got a drop-in trigger, or no, actually I kept that stock. So so I put a magwell, extended slide release, and more adjustable sights.
Mhm.
So that's the pistol. The rifle is the now no longer existed Saber Defense. I was able to buy it really cheap.
Right. That's the name of the
And
game.
then tricked
Yeah.
it out for 3-gun. And then the I don't know if you're familiar with FN, FNH for
Oh
Great
yeah.
National Pistol, their FN SLP Mark 1 shotgun for my multi-gun.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you don't see a lot of those out there.
Yeah. You
I
don't.
just it,
Yeah.
yeah, I just stumbled on it, and I was as I was getting ready to start, 3-gun, I was like, okay, I need a shotgun, because before that,
Right.
the only shotgun I had was a Mossberg 590, and let's a little bit later we'll go into the not 590 versus 870 debate. So that's why I kind of bring
Right.
that up.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the 590 was the only thing I had, and I was like, and pump action in 3-gun. I actually took it out and did it because I wanted to start, going to
Sure.
3-gun.
Yeah.
It worked, but it clearly took a lot more time. So I stumbled on the FN and got that instead. And
Yeah.
that thing's so smooth operating. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And
The only places I want to say that I don't think. Well, let me back up because I've seen a lot of stuff. Um, but for the most part, when we're talking about FN's shotguns,
Mhm.
it seems like law enforcement is where I see that the most. It's like law enforcement agencies. I very rarely, if I'm on the range or do something like that, do I see any type of you don't want to say civilian, but non-LEO,
Mhm.
let's just say,
Mhm.
uh, with an FN shotgun. Very rarely do you see one in a gun shop. Uh, it's interesting, and a lot of people probably don't even think. HK comes to mind with another one of those companies, Euro companies, let's just say, that
Mhm.
that produces shotguns that nobody's ever heard about because
Yeah.
their rifles, their pistols, their subguns, their other things are just far more popular.
Yeah. So yeah, when I go out with it, it always gets looks because everybody's like,
Yeah. What is that?
"What is that?" That's not a Benelli. That's not a Remington. That's not a Mossy. So they're all like, "What is that?"
Right.
And so I always get looks and everything from the other competitors because they're like, what is that?" And like this exactly what you said. It's just so rare. They just trip out. It's like FN makes auto loading shotguns. What the heck?
Hmm.
So from and then later I added took a Browning Buckmark, just base model, tricked it out. So now I have a
Nice.
22 pistol for for rimfire and steel challenge. And
So
then
okay, so you're
just
talking
picked
to
up
it.
pieces,
Go ahead.
here and there that I'm interested in. I collect the original P series SIGs. I'm a snob with them. Uh, with the Glock 34, I started buying a few Glocks for like a 19 for carry. I went ahead and got a 17. The reason for that is I take the 17 with me to competition. So if the 34 has something happens,
Hmm.
which is a Glock, it's built like a tank, come on.
Yeah.
But if on the one chance in a million it has something happens, I can just take the 17 and keep going.
Right. Well, you've seen the
So,
17L, their Gen 5 17L's back again,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, they brought back the L's. I wonder
Yeah.
what's up with that. I guess
Yep.
just consumer demand.
Uh, maybe. I know that I've got, I guess mine's a Gen 3 17L, the one I've got.
Hmm.
I think. I don't remember off the top of my head, but um, anyway, I know that anytime I've got it out, people flip out over it. So there has to be some type of demand, and we all know Glock's not going to do anything drastically different. So other than re-releasing old models or changing up some ambidextrous controls or grip texture or finger grooves or slide
Hmm.
serrations, that's about the
Yeah.
extent of what Glock is going to do with their stuff. So yeah, it makes sense. They would maybe bring back the 17L, but yeah, that's
Didn't
the one
they?
that I've on center fire still challenged. That's the one that I typically gravitate to taking as my 17L.
So so really between the 34 and the 17L, I mean, it's pretty much a standard 17 frame with in essence a
Mhm.
34 slide. I mean,
Yes,
now that's probably yes and no, because
kind
the
of.
34, it comes with some of the little extra like the extended mag release and so on and so on. But it's
Right.
really between the 34 and the 17L. I don't really think there's a whole lot of difference, honestly.
I don't think there is either. Is the barrel relieved on all the 34s? Or the slide relieved, I mean, barrel ported?
Mm. No, no.
Okay.
From the factory, no.
Okay. Okay. That may be one of the differences. And then again, maybe I've got, because I don't remember what gen mine is. So
Mhm.
that could be a difference in the generations as well. So I don't know. It's tough for me to speak on that, quite honestly.
Yeah, but
Um,
didn't years ago Glock kind of did a retro build where they brought back like the original design for a limited production run, and it
ooh, I,
kind of turned into like a collector kind of thing.
I don't know. Maybe somebody out there
Yeah.
in the chats or something would know about that. I don't recall anything, but I do know that manufacturers do certain distributors specific special runs and things like that pretty
Hmm.
regular. And it seems like I heard, uh, the OG Glocks had obviously the Tupperware boxes, and so
Hmm.
I heard that they re-released a short run, and it's been years ago now, but I'd heard they released a short run that had the Tupperware boxes. So, um, interesting story about the Tupperware boxes. That was a safety issue. That's why they moved away from that for the most part.
Oh,
Uh,
really? I didn't know that.
yeah, the Tupperware boxes had this piece that kind of went into the trigger guard,
Oh,
uh, and
okay.
and people were leaving their guns loaded, putting them back in the box, and then throwing them around in the back of the pickup, and you can imagine the potential
Mm,
for problems. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's why they moved. And
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the current iteration of the Glock's case, the rounded corners, and I kind of like that. So it's like, you know,
Yeah, I like the Gen 5s. I picked up a 19. Actually, the one I carry is a Gen 5 19, and then I went ahead and got the Gen 5 17, the match set or whatever you
yeah,
want to call it.
yeah.
You know.
I'm not a
Um,
I'm not a fan of the fives, man. I'll be honest with you.
really?
Three Glock lost me at three, and I'm not gonna say I wouldn't own a Gen 4 or Gen 5 if I had found a good enough deal on something. I mean, I would definitely.
Hmm.
I'm not one of these people that kicks a gun out of bed just for arbitrary reasons. If the price is right, I'm going to pick it up.
Oh yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, they are what they are, right? Um, but for me, the Gen 5, I'm right-handed, so I could care less about ambi controls. And I
Hmm.
don't like the added stuff sticking out and whatever with the ambi slide release, and then or slide lock, and then the lack of finger grooves when they drop those with the it's like, ugh. And they also changed the grip texture. So Gen 3 with Glock, uh, my favorite gen.
Hmm.
Um, Gen 1, Gen 2 for some nostalgia reasons, sure. But mostly
Yeah.
Gen 3 is my favorite. And you can still pick up a lot of Gen 3 stuff brand new. You see a
Are they still
lot of Gen
making
3
Gen
stuff.
3s?
Yeah, as far as
Yeah,
I
I thought.
know, they are. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of, and I think the reason that they do it, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, and folks in replay, comment down below. But as far as I'm aware, Gen 3s are still in production because of certain restrictions in not only states here, but also in rosters that have rosters. They can't get anything else on their roster. And then internationally as well. There's some regulatory stuff that kind of require that they keep making those. It's either either for them, it's either keep selling Gen 3s or sell nothing at all. And
right.
pretty obvious decision that a company makes at that point. We'll keep.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I'm pretty confident in saying while I do think they still manufacture new Gen 3s, I don't think they manufacture the entire Gen 3 line, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that would make sense.
Certain ones, right? Gen 317, Gen 319 would be a couple of
Yeah.
obvious, probably a Gen 322, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I heard that years ago, but I never really, looked into it to see if it's true or not. But it sounds like it is, and that makes perfect sense because there is one particular state on the West Coast, a very large state that's
it's got a bear on the flag, which is ironic.
Yeah,
considering that they want to strip people from the right to bear. So I'm just saying.
Yes, and they have a list of approved firearms, and I know the Gen 3s are the only ones that are on that list as far as I know. Please, folks, let correct me.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah. Information changes, things change so much. There's so much to keep up with and remember and everything else. So grain of salt when you're listening to any of my podcasts for sure. If I know it for a fact, I'll tell you I know it for a fact. Outside of that, don't trust me. Go do your own homework. I want to back up to the Buckmark because
sure.
Buckmark has been my handgun 22 handgun of choice for many years. Have multiple models tricked out for competition that has been in competition over the years. Mostly, some still challenge, mostly precision bullseye type stuff. So I'm really curious when you talk about the Buckmark. So what are some of the things that you have you done to that Buckmark? Like, have you done upgrade work, or is it stock out of the box? Like, what's going on with it?
No, just like that 1022, I bought the cheapest base model Buckmark I could get because all I need was, the frame and the slide, and the barrel went out. Got a 5-inch competition barrel. I can't remember who I bought it from, but it's
Tactical Solutions, probably.
That's it. That is exactly who. Yep. Yeah. And the barrel is threaded because we could talk about that a little bit later. I finally dove into the fun side of.
I'm trying to point here. It's difficult to do. There we go. So there is a 7.5-inch purple Tactical Solutions fluted. The flutes are silver, but so.
So I put that on there with the thread barrel because I knew one day I was going to cross over into.
I went Target Crown. When I went Target Crown, I did not go threaded with mine. I get why you would do it, but I opted instead of going the shorter barrel with the threads, because you can go shorter barrel threaded, or you can go longer barrel with Target Crown. And
no, they made one. It was 5-inch threaded.
No. I get you, but they don't make a 7.5-inch threaded.
Oh, okay.
So I opted for the longer barrel, no threads, Target Crown, since it was more precision used in a competition setting. I wasn't concerned with the suppressor thing, but I get why you would. And then the other issue too, you talk about the threads. So what I consider mine, I've got a heavy fluted. It's actually a Browning, heavy bull fluted barrel on my on mine. It's a 7.5-inch that is threaded, and I don't run a suppressor on it, but I run a comp on it.
Yes.
So while threads people's mind goes to suppressors a lot of times. It's like,
Mhm.
if it's threaded, you've got a lot of different muzzle devices you can put on there, not just a suppressor. So, opted for that. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah,
one of the first things you want to do. For those that are curious that want to trick out a buck mark, I will say this, and I've got videos. Matter of fact, I released one not too long ago because I picked up was that a Mark II or a Mark III? Man, it's tough for me to remember guns I got specifically. It sucks, but anyway, I've got a video out there. It's a Ruger Mark II or Mark III competition target model that
Mhm.
that was tricked out by Volkortsen. It's a Volkortsen edition. And I took it and put it up beside just a standard out of the box, nothing done to it. Well, I think I changed the grips, but nothing done to it internally anyway. Um, Browning Buckmark Micro Bull. And it's amazing when you start talking about a Volkortsen competition model Ruger versus that out
Mhm.
of the box Buckmark. It's amazing how well that Buckmark would hang with that. Now, would it win a
And that's a
match? Would it win a match against that? A precision match against that? I don't know. But just to the novice, the everyday shooter, it's just as good. If you're out plinking cans, just popping still for fun, that kind of thing, it is at
Yep.
100% just as good. So here's the thing with Browning that people have to keep in mind. The frame and the internals. So the frame, the then let me back up. There's different Browning has different grip frames. You probably see the
Mhm.
UFX, the URX, the other things. So pick your whether you want finger grooves or other things in the frame, basically is what that means. But as far as the frame itself, the internals, the trigger, how good all of that stuff is, what you're gonna start with in the basics. I always have advised people over the years just pick up typically what they call the camper model. Is the cheapest of the Browning buck marks that you can find. And
I
I'll
think that's
tell
what I
people,
bought.
yeah, I tell people if you're gonna trick one out, go with the camper model because basically the frame and the internals are top notch. And if you're going to upgrade the barrel, that's one of the crappy things about the camper. It's got this stupid profiled looking weird barrel that tapers down. Um,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
if you're gonna swap all that out anyway, just get the cheaper one and be done.
I think that's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's what the model is. I honestly can't remember, but bought it, stripped out the barrel, got the oversized button mag release,
yep. Those are
the
nice.
like the rail on top, and then just to be cute, I actually went out and got the kind of entry level. Well, excuse me, it's a Browning, open red dot
Oh yeah,
put on
yeah,
top. Yeah.
yeah. I've got
So
that's the one I've got. I run those for a while just so the logos and all basically were the same. And those are fairly cheap,
it's
but
yeah, yeah.
on a 22, if they don't get beat around, if you're talking about a competition setting where they're coming out of a case, getting shot in competition, going back in a case, they hold pretty well. I haven't had a lot
Yeah.
of issue with them. So you didn't change grips at all?
Uh, no, no. Actually,
Oh,
I kept the grips. Believe it or
yeah.
not, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I
Okay.
like them. I can't remember is it because when you start saying URX, URL, or something like that, I was like, yeah, it's one of those. It's the one that kind of had like the kind of a light grayish tone to the grips.
With like a
I
black
want to say.
stripe running through it.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
that's URX, I believe. Yeah. If I'm
Okay,
if I'm
URX. Yeah.
if I'm correct. Yeah.
No, I like the grips, so I kept it. I
Yeah.
liked it, and I
Yeah.
liked the way it looked. So
Yeah. And so no internal work is all that stock. You left all that stock, or
That's
did
all
you?
stock. Yeah, other
Really?
than barrel change, the large button release mag, the rail, and then put the red dot on. That's it. That's all I
So
did.
so you've got homework. I want you to do something now. It's like,
Uh
golly,
oh.
you got me thinking. So you've had that thing all apart. So obviously you know how to strip it all down and completely put it back together. But
Yeah.
strip that thing down when you get time. Um, and do me two favors. Well, first of all, before you do it, you've got a way to measure the trigger pull, measure the trigger pull. And then turn around, strip that thing down, and do two things. First of all, what do you use? A lower speed Dremel tool. And if you use a Dremel tool, folks, for your light gunsmithing work, make sure you have a variable speed, not the one that goes 4 billion miles an hour. And some polishing compound. Polish up the contact points on the trigger and the sear. So that's step one. Step two is flip the sear spring.
Flip
it.
I'm writing it down.
Flip the sear spring around.
Oh,
Turn it the opposite direction.
really?
Yes.
Okay.
And then measure it. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. It will be a custom trigger job essentially at that point.
Without buying any new parts.
Without buying a single new part. And then the only other thing I would recommend is going with, and all of my buck marks have them, the Tandem Cross Victory trigger, which is a trigger shoe. Is all it is. It's a flat-faced trigger shoe. And holy moly, because that's a flat shoe, you're able to get your finger in that same exact spot every single time. Or it's also easier to keep it in the same spot as that trigger comes back. You know, with a curved trigger, your finger can slide up and down as you pull it backwards, right?
Yeah.
And so pressure changes a little bit. And of course, that's going to affect the trigger weight. But now, if you're out there and you're leery about flipping a sear spring on a buck mark, I don't know if they still do, but I remember SHOT Show many years ago. I actually was blessed enough to announced to the world through a live video back when we could actually show guns on a live video, that part was releasing. I actually got to announce that, which was awesome on the channel. But they used to make a thing called the gearbox, the Tandem Cross gearbox. And what it is it's basically a flipped spring in a little housing that makes it just a drop-in part, essentially.
Oh, I like that. I'm sold.
Yeah. So you don't actually have to try to hold a pin and work a pin out and flip a spring and then wiggle the pin back in. It's very, very easy to just pop the sear spring out, drop the gearbox in, put the pin back in, and you're ready to go. Makes it that simple. So,
and who's the manufacturer again?
That's all Tandem Cross. Yeah.
It's all Tandem Cross. Oh, okay, cool. One-stop shopping. I like that.
The Victory trigger and the gearbox, what they call the gearbox. Two excellent upgrades for buck marks.
Well, thank you. That is definitely on the to-do list now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that I was going to bring that up, saying that's probably my only complaint about that setup. Even though the trigger is good, but it could be better.
Yeah.
You know, and I couldn't put my finger on. Well, what can I do?
The buck mark trigger to me, and I've said this for many years, the Browning buck mark trigger to me out of the box is one of the best hammer fire triggers out of the box, period. Now, again, that doesn't make it competition grade, obviously, like you say, but it is a fantastic breaking trigger. It's just it's got no creep. It's smooth. It's got a very solid wall, a very light break, a very solid wall, a very short reset. It checks all the boxes. Whenever you get folks out there that talk about a trigger, they're like, "Oh man, I really like the trigger on X, Y, and Z." And a lot of times my response is to press them on it to figure out what they like, because just to say you like a trigger, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the pull weight? Are you talking about the creep? Are you talking about how smooth it is, the wall, the reset, what are we talking about here, right? What aspect of that trigger, right?
Yeah.
And the buck mark it checks all the boxes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had it for so long it is, but any little thing to give me a little bit of an edge, sure, why not?
So Black Cat, I have proven that. So he says Mark series with Volquartsen is better than Buck Mark with tandem cross. Changed my mind. So I'll tell you this: Mark series with Volquartsen is not even as good as a Buck Mark standard out of the box. Go watch a video I had about, I don't know, a month ago, because I picked up a Volquartsen tricked out. I think it was a Mark. I think it was a Mark III, but I could be wrong. Could have been Mark II. Um, so go check it out. Now, as we pointed out earlier, if you were in an actual precision match with an actual Olympic level competitor pulling the trigger on the two, would the Volquartsen Mark do better? It likely would. To With 99% of people out there pulling the trigger on it, um, the Buck Mark's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I was, shooting my dad's, Mark, whatever, Mark III, Mark IV, or Mark II. Don't get me wrong, Ruger makes great stuff. That was a good quality pistol, but
Yeah.
somebody somewhere put the little bug in my ear. Hey, yeah, try a Browning Buck Mark, and sold. In fact,
Yeah.
follow up. I built this competition and everything, went out to the range with my dad, and hey, Dad, look what I built, right? He liked that. He liked that so much. He had me build one to match exactly what I had.
Do what for
So,
him? Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a reason I've got three. I've got more Buck Marks than that, but there's a reason I've got three Buck Marks that set up their competition rigs. Is because I built one for my youngest daughter, and then the next thing you know, we had other kids in the club that wanted it, and then of course, Daddy wanted one for competition as well. So one building one out turned into building three out at that point. Um, so yeah, I get it. I get it. Um, but yeah, the man, the Ruger Mark's been around forever. Um, I mean, it's a proven design. I don't
mhm.
have, you know, I sling a lot of shade at the Ruger Mark, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they're popular. The prices are right. I mean, for what you
Mhm.
get for the money,
Yeah.
they're gonna last. And especially now with like you mentioned earlier, with the Mark IVs and being able to really easily, pop the upper off, and that gives a little modularity that makes things better, easier to clean, to keep clean. And that's one of the things that really got to be careful with rimfire. Um, I'm sitting here and I sing high praises for the Browning Buck Mark, but
Mhm. Yeah.
there is always going to be in between stages of a match or something like that. Now, not a still challenge because there's not enough rounds fired, but something like a precision bullseye match from one um, relay to the next or whatever it might be. A lot of times you've got several hours delay in that. A lot of times they get cleaned. And the reason is you'll get buildup, especially on a buck mark. You'll get buildup between the bolt face, and the chamber face that will affect the headspace. And when you start affecting headspace on a rimfire, because rimfire headspace is off, guess what, folks? The rim. So as you build gunk and dirt, it doesn't headspace right. So you have extraction problems, you have accuracy problems, you have, fail to fire, fail to feed. I mean, you can have all kinds of malfunctions if you don't keep them clean. And rimfire in general is that way. You know, uh,
Yeah.
so that was one of the big advancements I think that Ruger made with that Mark IV. Um, Now, could Browning do something like that with the Buck Mark? And yeah, I kind of wish they would. I wish there was a easier way, because if you've ever taken down a Buck Mark, they're a little bit of a pain in the rear. Now, one of the things I do just for quick cleaning is I'll take I've got a really thin brush. And so a toothbrush won't work. A toothbrush is going to be too wide. But one of the things I will do, and I did this before I found some brushes, and I can't even remember where I found them. I was probably browsing Amazon one night for brushes or something and found some. But um, before that, I would take a toothbrush and basically take you a basic toothbrush and cut it almost in half, the head of the toothbrush.
Mhm.
Cut it almost in half, And when you do that, it'll fit right into that gap very easily on the buck mark to be able to scrub down the bolt in the chamber face.
I'm
So
writing that down.
yeah, scrub that down. Make sure you're lubricated good. Run a bore snake
Uh,
to it, and you're ready for the next. You're ready for the next match.
oh,
Uh,
wow.
but yeah, keeping them clean, super important for sure.
I like that. Yeah, because I was, always trying to be finicky, trying to get in there, and it's like, oh, there's somebody must have built a better mousetrap to be able to get inside the chamber to do a little touch up in between stations
Yeah,
or something like that. So, but
I,
generally, I haven't really had a whole lot of issues when I take my buck mark out for competition shooting. I exclusively use CCI mini mags,
uh-huh.
40 the 40 grain solid point,
Yeah,
the
40 grain
copper
round
plated
nose.
solid point.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I put through the buck mark, and I would argue CCI is probably the one of the cleanest shooting 22s rounds out there, especially if you go with the copper plated versus just the regular lead round nose.
it's an
But yeah,
oxy. I think it's an oxymoron. I don't think there is such a thing as a clean shooting 22, but
well, I hope I said as close as you can get,
you
and if
did,
I
you
didn't,
did, you caveated it, but yeah, I'm like, match stuff. I've shot match stuff. I've shot some really high
Mhm.
dollar stuff. I got into the Federal Punch, which is what am I thinking? The defensive ammo that they put out recently. Like all of it is just it's dirty. 22 rimfire in general is just dirty.
It is,
Um,
yeah.
it's interesting. You haven't run into with running the copper wash stuff, copper plated copper wash stuff. You haven't run into match rule issues with that?
Uh,
No,
Shooting steel challenge or rimfire challenge, no.
no. Wow. Okay.
Mm-mm. Mm.
I've run into in just almost any type of a rimfire match. It's got to be lead round nose.
Really? Well, unless it's a recent rule change, but
Yeah.
I
Well, it all depends on the match. I mean, I get that. It all kind of depends on the match and who's putting it on and whether anybody's going to complain or say anything. There's a lot of
yeah,
caveats to that. Uh, but typically in matches, you get somebody that wants to be a real butthole about the rules or something like that, and they notice that you're running copper wash, hollow point, copper wash, or and hollow point is still a challenge. I think can be a little dangerous anyway. But if you're running
yeah,
hollow point copper wash and or copper plated, then you can get somebody that may go and tell the match directors or something, hey, this guy's running so and so, which sometimes that bites. But um,
mm.
but yeah.
Well, I've only been to my local club here,
Oh,
and
okay.
never haven't had an issue. I never, went to a regional or national match.
Yeah, local club matches, they probably
Yeah,
don't care. Yeah, they probably
yeah,
don't care. You're
yeah.
probably right. Yeah.
Eventually, I do want to go to a state match. Got invited a couple of years ago before the shutdown, if
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah. That
get
that
at.
thing. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah, so I was invited to, or excuse me, the club was going to kind of give I guess they had like slots or something. I'm not sure. I haven't actually been to a larger match like that, but I guess they were allocated so many slots, and they were going to have me go and represent the club in the production division of
Nice.
USPSA,
Yeah.
because I was shooting uh, limited, and a couple of do they still call them masters and grandmasters in terms of their ranking in
I
USPSA?
think so. I'm not
Yeah,
into that huge. Well,
yeah,
honestly, I'm not into any of that at all. So other than the folks I know that shoot that and hearing them talk, so I mean that sounds right, but
yeah.
yeah,
But they're kind of like the club elders, so to speak.
right,
And a couple, one or two of them, saw me. It's just like, and I'm still a C rank in the limited division, and in production I was D, because that's where I started when I got into the whole USPSA thing. And they came over and said, hey, you want to represent the club and production division? And if you win the match, which I think you will, you'll move up to a C. And I was like, I don't know, I've never been to a larger match like that. And he told me, usually, especially in production division, there's like 4 people because everybody's either limited in the open division and single stack, things like that. So they hardly get anybody to go to production division. And
less competition.
As good as I was, they were like, yeah, you'll get moved up to from D to C easily.
Yeah.
So that was my chance.
That's a good strategy. So my youngest daughter and I both played that game, and it worked out really, really well. In fact, she won state archery her senior year, and I used to once upon a time wreck shop with 3D archery tournaments. And the reason for that, she moved into Olympic level recurve, which most kiddos were shooting their compound bows, right? Because they're flashy and they're pretty and they're whatever.
Yeah.
Or they were just shooting a bare bow with nothing on it because it costs money to take a recurve bow and then outfit it with sights and stabilizers and all this other stuff. Plus, you got to know how to utilize all that stuff too. But that was the reasoning to get her into Olympic level recurve, and you've got less competition in that. When you go into matches, and I did the same thing sort of, but in reverse, like you're talking about. I moved into open division in 3D archery, meaning that I tricked my bow out with everything possible you could. You know what I mean? I got the speed cranked up, lighter weight arrows, did all of that to kick myself up into the open division because there was less competition than there was in the in the stock division. Stock division, you had people that were like that. They hunted every chance they got. Like the competition was stiff in that class, and I'm like, you know what? If I could rig this bow out and make this bow like a sure enough race car, that'll kick me up into another class, and I've got a little less competition to have to deal with. And it worked out well. So that's a sound strategy for anything out there competing. Anybody out there that's competing. Especially when I think when you're just starting out in a way, because first of all, you get squatted up, and a lot of times when you get squatted up, it's a closer knit group because there's less competitors. First of all, so it's a little more camaraderie with that. But it also, you think you have more of a shot at actually placing, not necessarily winning, but at least placing, right? Getting on a podium or getting, a trophy or a ribbon or whatever it might be. And when you're just starting out, it's nice to be able to win just starting out. Now, as you build your skills, you get used to it, you can always bump back down to another more competitive level, and try that out, I think. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No, not at all. Not at all. And for a lot of folks who haven't, gone to a competition, when USPSA introduced the production division, that's exactly what it was designed for, is to get people going to matches without them having to spend money to trick out, a piece of kit. You just production division, literally, you can buy it you buy it literally that day at the store and then take it to the range. That's what's great about production business, is you do not do anything to it. No tricking out, nothing. But you are limited to 10 rounds in the magazine. So if you decide to shoot that division, bring lots of magazines.
Right. Make up the cost with the magazine. Real quick, Lewis out there, sort of off topic, out of left field, don't know where it came from, and there's no context, but says, can I use any lower, or does it have to be an AR pistol? I need more context there, Lewis. I don't know what you're talking about doing, or wanting to do, or needing to do, or seeking to do. Can you use any lower for what? For what are we doing? I don't rephrase the question as best you can, my friend, and we'll see if we can't answer that for you. But that's too vague of a question. We would spend 15 minutes trying to cover all the bases, and we need to move on because we're coming to the top of the hour, and we have not talked about gold or silver or coins or any of that. Um, and that was sort of what kind of led into this podcast. We were on kind of on a stream, and we were kind of talking about the investment value, investment angle of guns and ammunition and stuff like that. Oh, okay. Lewis says he's got 11 and a half Colt upper. Thank you. Great. Yes, that will have to be a pistol. So you can either get you a stripped lower and build that out, or you can get, because a stripped lower is typically, when you pick that up at your FFL dealer, it's going to be marked as an other. Typically, there's three things that an FFL will mark when you fill out your forms and get the background check and get that firearm or that lower. There's three things, and it's usually handgun, long gun, or other. A stripped lower will be typically other, meaning that you can take it home and do whichever you want, build that into a rifle or a pistol. Or you need a pistol. Get one that already has a brace or it's got a pistol length tube. But either way, it's marked as a handgun basically from the FFL. So, yeah, you would not technically want to. I'll give you for example. If you've got a 16-inch barrel AR, you would not want to put that 11 and a half upper obviously on that lower because it's going to have a stock, not a pistol brace. So just make sure that you've got no stock, no pistol brace, and preferably it's however it came out of that FFL dealer, right? The gun shop. It was either handgun or other. And if you're not sure, talk to the local gun shop and ask them and make sure. You don't want them to mark that wrong. But let's say you buy a complete pistol lower, you pick one up at one of the many online retailers. Yeah, slap the 11 half on. Now, alternatively, something you could do, which would negate the whole truck gun. I know Lewis said truck gun out there. This would negate the truck gun angle. But you could put a 5.5-inch flash hider on that thing, pin and weld it, and then that's a rifle at that point because that extends the length of that barrel effectively to 16 inches. So, but then you'd be 16 inches, and I'm sure since you said truck gun, you want something a little bit shorter. That would be a pistol. Yes. All right. Cool. Thanks for bearing with me while we got that answer.
No worries, man. No worries.
Thanks for the clarification, Lewis. Appreciate that. A little side tangent there. Not a big deal. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we were talking about investments and stuff like that. So when did you get into kind of the same we asked you with your gun community stuff? When did our gun culture stuff, gun journey? When did you get into the gold and silver and the coins and that sort of stuff?
Really quick, if I could just caveat it, kind of part of the, I guess, inspiration for this particular podcast. Clovertac and I were in a different community and we were chatting back and forth. And I'm not sure if it was me or you, but we brought up the idea of, firearms being an investment, and which I agree. But then him and I went back and forth and said, hey, precious metals is also an investment. And, we kind of had the friendly banter back and forth about, well, I can take your, stuff with my stuff. And, well, I got stuff to protect my stuff. And, real friendly banter, that kind of thing. And that's kind of how this particular show was kind of created.
I still think firearms are superior for many reasons. However, the reason you're here is I have absolutely zero problem with the diversification of investments, and gold, silver, coins, goes without saying, are still fabulous investments. So that's why you're here. So
yeah, well,
yeah. Go ahead.
I think with the firearms community, I think I would argue a vast majority of folks either are or are strongly considering the precious metal
Oh, sure. Yeah.
as a
Probably
um,
already into it. I would assume a lot of
probably,
folks. Yeah.
or they certainly playing with the idea, and the kind, like you said, to diversify. It's not something you want to completely, go all in on. No, it's the add it to your portfolio of things that you are
Right.
uh, your financial well-being. I'm not a financial analyst or anything related, so please do your due diligence before entering the precious metal community. Okay. Um, anyway, I got into it in February of 2021, so I'm still kind of new.
Wow. Okay.
But the community on YouTube is really good. They got some really good content creators there. That's where my channel's kind of grounded. So anyway, back to February of 2021. Okay, make sure I said it right. I got a little birthday money, and I was playing around. He's like, "Yeah, I want to buy some gold and silver," but just never got around to it. And then I finally decided when I got that little extra money, I went out and bought my first. Oh, I didn't bring. I should have brought it out, but I bought my first tube of American Silver Eagles.
Oh, nice.
So that tube of 20 started the whole journey, and then from there it just expanded into uh, stack into what's called stacking. And what that means is you're going out to buy the most of the metal, gold, silver, platinum, whatever, for the least amount of cost. So
Mhm.
you're trying to get more for less, in essence.
Right.
So those are the really hardcore, what we say, stackers. For me, I'm more of little more strategic in what I'm buying because
Mhm.
I see it. I like using the word savings account, and the reason I prefer to use that is because gold and silver is a long term investment.
Mhm.
Okay, this is not something, in my opinion, it is not something that you just buy now and then like try to sell it, next week when prices are up. If you want to play that game, like I said, you do your own due diligence, but it's a long game. You
Right.
you
Yeah.
you buy when you can, when your budget permits you. So this is not something that you have to run out and make. I strongly suggest that you sit down and set a budget, make sure you're taking care of business at home, taking care of you, your
Right.
family,
Yeah.
your basic necessities of life. And if you got a little money on the side, sure, why not?
100%.
Go pick
Yeah.
up a coin here and there, during a month or something like that. You don't need to go dive in.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest mistake, is I just went right into the deep end of the pool.
Right. I usually do too. Um, that's
And
why I say I haven't done anything with gold, silver coins, anything like that in probably close to 10 years. I would
mhm,
guess, but oh my goodness, for 20, 30 years ago, something like that, there for several years, I was
mhm,
heavy into it. So, um, I kind of stockpiled everything back then, but yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I think that's even applies to guns and ammo. Don't spend the money that you need to use to take care of your family and the obligations that you have. That always comes first. And then I would
yes,
even go as far as to say the expendable income, anything you have left over beyond that. You mentioned a savings account. I would say, a certain amount of that needs to be allocated to that savings account, at least, a certain percentage maybe.
I agree.
Let's say you have $100 left over at the end of the month. Divest $20, $40, $50,
Hmm.
split it into a savings account, and then put the rest into whatever the investments that you want to make. Because, like you say, those are especially that is going to be long term, right?
Hmm.
Whereas a savings account, who knows what emergency might come up, you know, a few months, a few years down the road, and most Americans do not have money in a savings account. So get you some money in a savings account because it's really nice to have when you get into a pinch. It's cool to have investments and assets too. Uh, but it's a whole lot easier not to worry about selling something. If an emergency comes up, it's way easier to go down to the bank, grab the money, take care of what you got to take care of, and then worrying about selling some investments to replenish the savings account, right?
I
So,
oh yeah. I
uh,
am totally 100% absolutely based whatever the words that the young people are using today. Absolutely. If
right,
if my partner in crime in the precious metal community, Mr. Gen X Collectible, he was on uh, earlier in this stream. Him and I do collaborative live streams, and one of the topics we're going to be talking about soon is about the impact of the economy as of today, the 12th of June 2024. It's not so great, but to go back, it tie in exactly what you said. The research that he looked up, the percentage of Americans who have at least $500 in their savings account is like less than half of the population of the United States. And then if you go up to $1,000 in their savings account, that percentage even drops half of that.
oh yeah,
So yeah, so before you start getting this stuff, my friends, and yeah, okay, call this financial advice. I'm telling you to save up some money first. Build up that
right,
savings account. You
right,
need that emergency money because, like you said, what happens if the transmission in your truck, goes,
yep,
and you ain't got cash to pay the mechanic? You got to go get it, and you got to go have it. So you need
mhm,
uh, to have a savings account built up, with at the minimum at least a couple of months worth of your monthly expenses, your
yes,
rent, mortgage, if you
correct,
have that, your car payment, utilities, gas, food, expenses for the kids. I would, and yeah, this sounds like financial advice, but it's very sound. I would have, I would argue you'd want at least 3 to 6 months worth of savings account built up.
right,
And I would
yeah,
actually suggest you do that first before you start buying these things.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
I don't think telling people, and this is a personal opinion, but I give the caveat and say, hey, it's financial advice. And when we're talking about investments, it's definitely that's opinion. Take that with a grain of salt. If I'm telling
yeah.
somebody to save money, that's
Hmm.
sound advice. That's no longer
I agree.
to me, that's no longer financial advice or financial whatever you want to call it, right? It's like that's just common sense. Everybody's we're not telling people to spend money on anything. We're telling people to save their money. So
Yeah.
um now
So
with well go ahead. Pick up where you
no,
left off.
yeah. So I bought that first tube, and soon I had a little bit of regret because I was like, oh, I paid way too much for it. The people I bought it from, they like overcharged, their premium on it. And I'll kind of transition to that. Um, so with gold and silver and platinum and palladium, those are the precious metal, the four most prevalent of the precious metals.
Mm,
They're a commodity. They're traded on these various markets around the world. So just like any other commodity you can think of, if you're buying, grain or oil
yeah.
commodities, it's the same
Soy and
thing. You could
wheat
just
and whatever.
soy,
Yeah.
wheat, yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You're just substituting whatever it is. So
Yeah.
it is bought and sold as a commodity, and in the community we call it spot price. So there's a bid and a sell price for precious metals. And precious metals, by the way, these are uh, on the commodity exchange. These are sold in 1 troy ounce, not an ounce, but a troy ounce, which
Hmm.
is approximately 1.1 ounce to make a troy ounce.
Yeah.
So it's traded, and because it's traded, that means that price of that ounce of gold, silver, whatever, is going to fluctuate. It's going to be up one day, it'll be
Right.
down one day, it might be, kind of even keeled for a couple of days. It's volatile, and that's why I exercise caution. Do your due diligence, study up on it, before you make that dive, because
Yeah.
and understand once you purchase, you got it. Don't beat yourself up if literally the next day, oh, I could have saved, 50 cents for
Right.
that ounce of silver. Don't beat yourself up, because that's how the market is.
Yeah.
This is the long game, folks.
Yeah.
This is the
You'll get
long
it
game.
back. Yeah, you'll get it back.
You will get it back. You know, you will get it back. If you look, you pull up these sites. I use kitco.com, and a lot of the people in the precious metal community on YouTube, it's pretty much everyone's go-to site to look at the spot prices. And if you pull those graph outs for years, you can see, you're going to see the bumps and stuff because, you know, spot prices affected by economies, anything the Fed says or the government says in terms of jobs and job reports and world events.
Right.
You know, they all play into what happens to the spot price. So
yeah,
you got to look at what that spot price is first. Get an idea what that is. All right, let's go ahead and start playing the game here. So you're ready to go buy, you want to buy, 1 or 2 ounces of silver, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Go and look at the spot price when you're ready. Look at where it's going and see how it's trending. Get an idea what that number is. That's what is spot currently? Let's just use a quick example. If you just,
whoops, he just clicked himself off the stream. So while he was getting that, this was John Jacobs out there trading places. A dollar bet. Yeah. John Jacobs out there, lead, silver, and gold. So hopefully he realized that he disconnected himself. He did. He is back now. So he booted himself. Mike's muted there. There you go.
I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button, boy.
It happens.
I apologize, everybody. So silver, currently, the markets are open. It's currently using kitco.com. It's trading at $29.65. So let's just use that for our little exercise here. So we know that number. Now, the trick here is when you go out either to the online bullion dealers, or I would suggest that you find your local coin shop and develop a relationship with the guys or gals that work there, much like you do with your local gun shop. Get to know the people behind the counter, because literally, like I said, you could substitute one of these for a pew-pew, because we're talking about a commodity here.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So develop that relationship with those folks, and something, and once you get to know them, they get to know you, they'll call you one day. Hey, guy brought in a tube of, American Silver Eagles, for example. Thought of you. You want to come down and buy a couple? So that relationship is really important. So get to know those folks, and arm yourself with this information. So know what your spot price is on either gold, silver, whatever precious metals you're going to get into, because whether it's an online bullion dealer or your local coin shop, they're going to add what's called premium. So they're going to add, a X amount percentage on top of what that spot price is. And that's what they're going to sell this bullion. That's going to be their selling price. So you need to arm yourself with information so you can shop. That's the key. Shop around and look for who's got the best price for what you're looking for.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. It's just like I said, it's just like a commodity. I mean, we do the same thing. Hey, I want the new, I don't know, SIG 226 Legion. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to do the same thing. You're going to call around to your local gun shops. You're going to go online and see who's got, a good price, and have that transferred to your FFL, and, do all the proper, paperwork accordingly. But you're going to shop around. So in essence, it's the same thing. You just have to do that extra step of finding out what your spot price is per ounce, so how much, premium on top whoever you're going to buy from is adding. So okay, this online bullion, say 3% over, or silver, usually we count it in dollars and cents, because these are $30 versus gold, which is what trading at what is it currently trading at here? It is trading around, was it 23.37?
Wow.
Yeah, excuse me. It's trading at $2,329 a troy ounce. So that's gold. But still, you got to arm yourself with that information so you know what you're getting into.
Right.
Now, to talk about gold. Now, that's a lot. that's a lot to buy 1 troy ounce of gold. And I just want to give you an example. This is not an American coin. This is actually from the United Kingdom, but this is a 1 ounce gold coin from the United Kingdom Mint, and it's what's called the completer coin to their Queen's Beast series, and it's got
about what size
around the
would you
radius
say
of
that?
it.
Would you say that is for the folks in audio replay? 50-cent piece, maybe.
I'm sorry.
I said in relation to American money, about what size would you say that is?
In terms of the denomination, the monetary assignment
No, in
to it.
terms of the physical size, the physical dimensions.
Oh,
of
I'm
that.
sorry. Yeah.
You got to remember, we've got audio people that aren't able to see what you're holding up. So.
Oh, right. I'm so yeah.
Let's
I
paint
apologize.
let's paint a picture for them about what size is
yeah.
that.
So
that
this
piece.
is coins, especially the bullions, are generally measured in millimeters. So typical 1 ounce gold coins are about 32 millimeter.
Okay.
Make sure I get that right. Yeah. And you're using your standard 1 ounce, 1 troy ounce silver coins like these American Silver Eagles I've been showing people who can see. Those are around 40 millimeters in diameter.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just to give you, something for those out in, I guess, podcast land, give them a visual image.
Yes, it's important. One thing that I found out real quickly, and this is where you got to kind of make the decision for yourself out there as to what you're going to, how you're going to invest. I think again, diversity is king, so you want a little bit of everything. I do believe.
Yep.
But when I got really crazy into the gold, silver, the coins. We're talking silver spot was, first of all, silver was really, really easy to come by on the early days of eBay and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But the spot was like less than $5 for sure. $2 to $3 maybe. Like it was extremely cheap. So it did not take long to have boxes and boxes and bins and piles of silver. So to an extent, it's still that way, even though spot's 10 times easily what it was back then. The lower the spot, the more stuff you acquire, the more room you have to have, whether that be in a safe or safe deposit box or however you decide to store and secure that, right? So that's another consideration, I guess, that people need to make as they're trying to diversify. Yes, I think you need need to diversify into multiple things, but you also need to be mindful of the space you've got in which to secure it.
Yes, I know. That's actually one of the points I wanted to bring up. So that's great a piece to segue into. Yeah. With silver, to get that, that monetary amount that you want to invest in, it's going to take a lot of actual physical silver. So just like you said, you could buy, in essence, what spot price again on gold, $2,300. You could buy $2,000, let me just round the numbers, buy $2,000 in silver. How much? That's a lot of silver in physical size. That's a lot of ounces versus a 1 ounce gold coin. So you got enough room in your safe with the pews to put in, 30, 40, 50 or so ounces of silver,
Right.
Am I saying that you shouldn't stack silver? Not at all. You do you. As the saying goes, but be mindful of that. For me, I have transitioned from silver to gold, and that's one of the big reasons why, because as I've built my, stack of silver, it's just like, I got too much, but some of the ones that in fact, there's a coin show next month in Florida that I'll be attending, and all the excess silver that I don't want, I'm taking with me. And hopefully to show if spot prices, keep on their trend, maybe add them, maybe up maybe 75 cents by next month. Well, hopefully sell that stuff and then try to buy some gold with the fun from this. So in essence, I'm trading silver for gold. That's the goal.
Right. Looks like we got a raid from our buddy Grid One out there. So welcome.
Hey, Grid One. Thanks for the raid. Awesome.
We're sort of winding it down here a little bit, but talking guns and have talked guns for nearly an hour. Talking a little
That's
bit on the
good. I enjoy
gold
it.
side now. So, um,
Let me really quick with the
yeah,
gold. So I know that price, for that's a full ounce coin, that I showed and was talking about. Well, what's great about gold is they have what's called fractional gold. So you can buy it in 1/10 or zero point 0.1 ounce,
right,
a quarter ounce, half ounce, and then the full ounce. So you don't have to like, oh, I don't, I want some gold, but I don't want to, I don't have the, $2,000 or so to buy a 1 ounce. Well, you can buy fractionals, and those are obviously, you know, either half, quarter, or a tenth. The problem with fractional is that generally bullion dealers, coin shops, whoever, their premiums are generally higher on the smaller size or smaller weights. So
mhm,
again, do your due diligence, find out what your spot price is, do the math, and figure out is it worth it for you.
right,
But it's but the positive side is the fractionals or the smaller weights in gold, it, because of its price point, that gives a lot of people kind of that entry point. So if they
right,
want to start getting some gold coins in, they don't have to buy the full ounce coin. They can get the smaller
right.
tenth or quarter ounce and build their stack that
Build
way.
up. Yeah,
So
and I'm glad you brought that up because let's say that we were talking about the budgeting, taking care of your family, making sure everything, the savings account, all that other stuff's taken care of first. And let's just say you have $1,000 left, right? Out of that, it's a good round number. Um, yeah, you could do 500 into fractional gold, right? 500 into silver, or maybe do 750 or something into fractional gold,
mhm,
and 250 into silver, something of that nature. And the reason there's another aspect too here that I think we've chatted back and forth about in some of these live streams and stuff, but we haven't hit on here on this podcast is there's another reason besides, as far as the diversification, besides storage space, the cost, that sort of thing. And that is that in the event that we do see some type of collapse, be it a world, national, local's probably more likely, type of collapse, um, you know, what good when you need, some, like you were talking about other commodities, maybe some corn, some milk, some whatever from the farm down the road, what good does a 2,000 something dollar gold coin do you when you need 20 or $30 worth of goods from someplace, right? Um,
exactly.
are you gonna try to clip a coin and cut a coin and weigh a coin, or would it behoove you to have, some silver quarters, some silver half dollars, some silver
Or
dollars,
these 10th ounce or quarter ounce
or
gold and
or
stuff
even
like that.
smaller, or even
Yeah,
smaller fractional stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And real quick, you mentioned it about the quarters. So back in the early days of our mint, the dime, quarter, half dollar, and dollar coins were minted in 90% silver. In the community, we call it constitutional silver because it is minted coins from the U.S. Mint.
Mhm.
They stopped the practice of making silver coins in 1964 was the last year. From 65 up, no more, silver half dollars and things like that, unless it's like a special commemorative collection, set you can buy from the U.S. Mint, for example. That's really for the true collectors.
Right.
So anything from 1964 back in the dime, quarter, half, and dollar are 90% silver. So you're talking about your peace dollars, your Morgan dollars, your Kennedy, or excuse me, your Ben Franklin, half dollars, and go back a little bit further. They have what's called the Walking Liberties,
Mhm.
the Mercury dime, which is what was before the Roosevelt dime, and then even before that, they had the Barber series, Barber quarter, Barber half, Barber dime. But because those are we're talking pre 1900, those depending on their condition has a added collector value on top
Right.
of what it's worth in terms just its weight in gold. So
Yep.
this is, we could go on about this, but
Well,
obviously
that's
the
a
time
and that's a
constraints.
story. If I can tell it correctly, we've got a little time here. At least if you do.
Yeah.
I think we've spent about 45 minutes on guns. We've about 45 now on the ammo, so we can kind of go back and forth probably now. But, to the story that I was back and forth with you a little bit, and it speaks to exactly what you were talking about, that you have the collectible value. You got to look at the spot price, the precious metals value versus that collectible value. And what do you want to do? In a situation I got in back in the, maybe early 2000s, can't remember exactly now, was I bought some, and I still haven't, even after we chatted, I still haven't went and tried to pull those out and see what year they were. But I bought a bunch of silver Canadian maple leafs,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it it turned out that it was a low. After I had got them, it turned out it was a low mint year, and I was buying them for just under spot, which is why I was buying them. And then it turns out the guy didn't know what he had from a collector's standpoint, right?
Hmm.
And so the collector's value was nearly twice what this, or even more what the silver spot was on those. And so what did I do? I turned around and listed all but just a few, just to have a few, right?
Hmm.
Because you never know. I listed all but just a few, the majority of them, back on, pretty sure they came from eBay, but back on eBay, for a pretty good deal considering the collector value. Sold those, made a profit off of that, and then turned around and put that back into Silver Spot. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I used the collector value on those because I'm not a coin collector. It's not why I was getting them. I was getting them for the precious metals. And so it was really easy for me to turn loose of those, the vast majority of those anyway, to then flip that to then get more precious metal. And so there's that game. You talked about it, I guess, being a game, and there definitely is a game you can play with it.
There is, yeah, there is. There's like I said, the true like stackers they don't necessarily focus on government based bullions or the collectibles. They just want to find. They usually float to what's called generics. They're not government minted coins. They're just private mints. They just take a slab of silver or gold or whatever, and then they stamp it with a fancy design or something like that, and then that's what they chase after because they can get the most amount of silver. It's predominantly silver. They can get the most amount of silver for the least amount of cost.
Right.
So they're trying to
Um,
avoid that premium that we're talking about when it comes to like government-based bullion, for example.
Real quick for John Jacobs, should be the ats link. You should be able to click the Department of Numismatics tag in the description or the um, title of this video. If not, you'll have to wait until we're done recording so I can drop one. I can't participate in the chat. I can ban people. I can do all kinds of other things. I cannot type. My keyboard is way over there. So I'm not able to drop a link or anything like that. But if you click on the title, it should be blue in the title or the description. You should be, and that's for future listeners as well. That should get you to Mr. Boulay or the Department of Numismatics channel. Sorry about that, bro. Just wanted to clear that up since we had the Grid One raid coming in hot.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He was very. I'm very grateful to him because I was able to go on one of his shows and actually talk about precious metals and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to Grid One as well. So just really quick, back to the whole constitutional silver. So a
Please.
lot of people look at that as a alternative to actually buying, straight like 1 ounce bullions, instead. When I first got into this into precious metals, they were at the time cheaper, so to speak, relative to what a full ounce silver coin is. But now with inflation and supply and demand and everything, literally an ounce of constitutional quarters is pretty much the same as buying one full troy ounce silver bullion coin, for example. So
Mhm.
they've kind of became even Steven now with
Yeah.
their premiums and everything. So it's a matter of preference. Like we were kind of hinting to before, I would say, sure, get a roll of constitutional silver, because like you said, if heaven forbid we were in a situation like that, instead of breaking out, trying to, all I got is these large, denominations, we can,
Hmm.
you can shell out a couple of these, these older constitutional silver quarters or half dollars and stuff, and then use
Yeah.
that as your bargaining, for supplies or whatever it is. So, to be honest, have a little bit of everything. Couldn't hurt.
And you want to make sure too. This is something that I always check. I know that my dad, my grandfather, my mom, my grandmother, like all the old heads in my family, and I'm an old head at this point, but for the longest time, especially running a business for 20 years, I would always go through the till. And my office girl, any of my techs, anybody that might be working the till, make sure they know to look for silver, because
Yes.
you would be
Yes.
surprised at the amount of silver, just random silver, that turns up in your change. And you do
Hmm.
not want to go turn around and put that in a Coke machine or something. Like, you want to take that home and put that up if you're lucky enough to run across that. Now, I am so I'm so used to that. I've done that for so long now, because I was even doing that when I was little, right? Because my grandparents or whatever, looking for silver and change at the grocery store or whatever.
Yeah.
And back then it wasn't anything about it was just cool because you didn't hardly ever see it. You're talking about in like the 80s. It's not like spot price was through the roof or anything, but you just didn't ever see it. It was something that was cool. And um I can tell just by the feel. Like, you
Yes.
hand me,
There.
you could blindfold me and give me a handful of change, and I could sort through it and pick out the silver coins.
Yes, you can.
There's a once
There
you
is a
handle
difference.
it once you handle it enough, there's a very distinct feel and weight to it. It's really
And,
kind of neat. Yeah.
and a sound.
This is true. Yes, especially if you
And
was to drop it or clank it. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Um so one of the things that I guess has bugged me for a while. And again, I've been out of the I went in hard, heavy, and fast, and got out basically 20 years ago with a stockpile or whatever that I've got. And but with and I know you said you haven't been into this too terribly long, but I'm curious if you've got an answer to this question, or this may be something that a topic for some of the folks in your gold and silver community, that maybe there's somebody that can answer this question later down the road. But I'm curious because when I first got into it, I was looking at something that has really frustrated me since. And that was, if you track on some of the graphs I've seen over the years, and we're talking literally hundreds of years, if not more, it was tracking the price of gold and silver on this graph. And the rate of, how do you put it? Um, the increase, I guess, in spot price or whatever value,
Hmm.
right, was consistent between gold and value. Gold would go up 15%, silver would go up 15%. Forever, it seemed like, on this graph that I seen. Again, this was years ago.
Hmm.
And then at some point, that gap started to widen, where gold would go up 20%, 25%, 30%, silver would go up 5%.
Hmm.
Um, is that really a thing? Have you seen that in some of the research you did? And do you know what the potential cause of that is?
A couple of things come to mind. One is obviously supply and demand. In the last, I want to say the last 5 years or so, when I first started getting into this, people are diversifying, especially generally when the economy's bad, people are buying more, precious metals. When economy's good, maybe not so much, because they're kind of like, the whole savings account kind of thing. They want to lock in their value, of their dollar,
Right.
while they can. And like I said, it's a long game. You lock it in now, then you hold on to it, let that spot price come up, and
Yep.
then you can, what's the old verbiage? Buy low, sell high. I'm not a day
Right.
trader.
Always.
But this is a long game type of investment. So
Right.
we're looking at supply and demand. Also, what you have to consider too, especially with silver, silver is also an industrial metal. So it's highly used in technology, especially in the green energy
Right.
realm. So it's used in the production of rechargeable batteries. We're talking about solar panels, all these, anything related with electronics. There is a significant amount of silver inside your smartphone, your PC, any electronic device you have. It's going to have silver and a finite amount of gold as well. In
Right.
some cases, depending on how heavy, how much electronics are in a particular device, there are people and there's even companies out there that will try to extract the gold out of those electronics.
Oh, definitely.
And the technology is slowly getting better to the point where it will become cost effective to extract gold and silver from electronics. Right now, if you're just gunning for silver, even at today's spot price, it's the cost versus your expense versus your gain. It's not
Right.
there yet, but the technologies are getting better. And I've read up something. Some research students at a university were looking at some new method of extracting silver to make it cost effective. So for those who believe, the good Lord said we're supposed to be good stewards of the earth. I believe that, and we should recycle. And if there's a way we can extract gold and silver from electronics we're not using anymore, why not? I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well,
I think
that's
that is.
that's the area that I was in business in for nearly 20 years was electronics, IT, computers, that sort of thing. And since probably the mid late 2000s anyway, I would keep all of my scrap, and there was a place in Houston I had to take it. And so I would throw everything in barrels, Gaylord boxes, that sort of thing, throw it on a trailer, whatever. And about every quarter or so, I would take that stuff down to Houston. Now, I knew what they were looking for, so I didn't take the entire desktop computers. I would strip the motherboards, the hard drive, the processors, and then sort everything accordingly because they paid more when it was actually stripped down and sorted like that, too. The cases, I would just take those to the local metal scrapyard. You feel what I'm saying? But it was unbelievable to me for that was junk. It was unbelievable back then what they were paying. I never took, there would be, we're talking about a fairly small trailer. What is that trailer? So that trailer's, good Lord, that trailer's like a 4x8, 6x8, something like that trailer. Thousands of dollars, several thousand of dollars was a trip for that scrap for basically 3 months worth of junk, computer junk. And what was crazy is the older the stuff was, the more they paid. So old school like Pentium Pros out of like old school servers back in the early 90s or whatever, mid 90s or whatever it was, were insane the price they paid. And what they was doing, because you go down there and it's pretty obvious because they've got shipping containers there that they're just basically shoving this stuff in. They're sending it overseas to be somewhere to be extracted. Now, where, I don't know. I don't know the nationality. I know that the guys that ran the place were not redneck Texas Americans. I can tell you that much. What nationality they were, I don't know. But I'm guessing Pakistani, Indian, maybe something along those lines. But almost no doubt they were sending it over there. They had some kind of contact or something, right? They were shipping it. So, but it got me to thinking about the amount of money that is in that scrap for them to buy it from me. They have a warehouse, right? They're paying rent on a warehouse in Houston, the lights, the employees to unload and do stuff. They're buying it from me. They're packing all that into a shipping container. They're shipping it all halfway around the world or whatever. Those people are extracting it. Let's be honest, with the labor probably over there, pennies on the dollar, but still, there's some
Yeah.
cost involved. And and they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't making money. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's like the amount, it's just, when you think about that, it's crazy. And then I took that a step further and I'm like, can you imagine the amount of money, talking about being stewards of the earth? Can you imagine the amount of money with, especially considering the old school electronics had a higher ratio of precious metals?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine landfills?
Mm.
Can you imagine the amount of money that's buried in landfills from 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? Some of these electronics that have literal ounces of gold and silver
Mm-hmm.
potentially in them. And when you
Oh,
think
and don't
about
forget,
that,
yeah.
you think, cleaning those landfills up, it could be a profitable endeavor
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
for someone to clean those landfills up.
Yeah, and don't forget your industrial metals like copper,
Right,
tin, iron ore, things like that. I
right.
mean, even the spot prices. Can't really speak for the others, but I know with copper, the demand has slowly gone up because of manufacturing. I mean, when you're talking about solar panels, yeah, it's got silver in it, but it's also got copper. You got to run the wiring to get the power generated out to your battery source or to the house or wherever wherever that power is going. You're going to need
Right,
copper and things like that.
right,
So the demand
right.
on even copper has gone up slowly too.
Yeah.
And just to kind of one more thing about that, do you recall, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe it was just before the shutdown, wink wink, uh, at least where I live, there was a rash of folks going out and taking the catalytic converter off of people's vehicles, especially
Uh,
trucks, because they're so easy to
yeah.
crawl underneath. And they would take the cats off and go
Yep.
sell them for scrap.
Yep.
So there was a little mini crime wave with that, and during the shutdown thing, a lot of manufacturers, especially in the auto industry, was having a hard time trying to get in palladium because they first started making catalytic converters with platinum, and then they
Mhm.
switched to palladium because it's more efficient. You can use less material to get the same effect. But the
Right.
palladium kind of prices kind of fluctuated. Supplies was a factor, and so a lot of the auto manufacturers switched to go back to platinum,
Mhm.
or the vendors who provide those to the auto manufacturers, they switched back to platinum because it was more readily available. So
Right.
again, supply and demand, whether it's be individuals like us buying it for our investment, or the industrial side where the high
Yeah.
demand is on electronics, vehicles, green energy devices. That's what also affects the spot price. And then finally, economics, what's going on in the US, what's going on in the world, they also affect spot prices too, because
Sure.
our country is not the only one who provides gold and silver to the world, whether it be for bullion or for industrial applications.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
somebody somewhere might have found we found a nice vein of gold here. Well, that could affect spot price.
Right.
So, and then having,
Yeah.
not to say too much more about world events, but I think everybody knows what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Even those alone affect spot prices too.
Right.
But to wrap it up, I would say supply and demand, as in industrial and personal supply and demand,
Mhm.
is probably the biggest factor in why spot price, especially the deviation that you were talking about between gold and silver,
Yeah,
why
gold
it's
is going to rise. The gold is going to rise above silver as it's more rare, essentially.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. As demand increases, that gap will get bigger because it's rarer, I guess, is the way to put it. Interesting. You talk about catalytic converters. Yeah, first of all, yeah, oh my God, the drug heads and stuff around here with precious metal, well, industrial metals, I should say, copper and whatnot. I can't
Yeah.
tell you the number of air conditioning units and whatnot, in town that have been stole, you know, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now at all the scrap yards, it requires ID now, and they go over what you bring in, and so they're trying to. They've almost put a stop to you being able to do anything like that nowadays. Um, but back to the catalytic converter. When I was mechanicing years ago, it was interesting, and this is back in the I don't know early '90s or whatever. Um, there was a guy that would come around, and anytime that we would let us know, and anytime we replaced a cat, he's like, "Keep it," he said, "and I'll come by. I want to come by and pick it up." He said, "And I'll pay you for it." And what he did is he had these. It was weird. He had these little plastic coins made. I'll never forget it. He had these little plastic coins made, and he would come around and pick it up. And if you had three cats, maybe, and you never knew when he was going to show up. He just randomly showed up. But when he did, you'd have them stacked over there by your toolbox, and he'd come over there and he'd get them, and he'd give you had three. He'd give you three of these little coins, and you could take those coins and use those coins on the tool truck that come around. It was the Mac tool truck. Um,
Oh, yep.
and you
I
get
remember Mac.
you got $20 worth of credit at the. So he had a deal cut. He wanted the cats, but then he had a deal cut with the Mac truck, and then so he fabricated his own little plastic tokens, basically that got you $20. They were worth $20 on the tool truck, you know. And at that time, we all had a tool bill every time the truck come around. Every week we had, something we had to pay on our tool bill. It never was a week go by you didn't buy something off the truck. And so that was always kind of fun. And at the time I got to thinking, but I never really acted on it. It wasn't too terribly many years after that though that I got into the gold and silver. And that's part of why is because that got me to thinking if this guy's able to drive around and get all these mechanics to save stuff for him and he's paying us $20, but then he's got a deal cut with the tool, like how much money is he really making off these cats, right?
Right.
Like we
Right.
know we
Exactly.
know he's making more than $20 because he's driving around all these shops. And so that's when I looked into it a little further and it started getting into the gold and silver myself. So I
Hey,
want to
real
kind of
quick, just
yeah, go ahead.
one last thing. My partner, him and I actually become really good friends. Mr. Genix Collectibles over in the precious metal coin community. In the chat, he brought up another point about precious metals. The reason for fluctuation is how the stock market and the bond market are doing. So changes there also affects the spot price
Sure.
in gold and silver. So
Yeah.
just wanted to shout out Mr. Genix Collectibles with bringing it up. So thank you.
Well, when we talk about the investment side of guns, and for those that came in late from the Grid One raid, for the first 45 minutes was some pretty good gun talk. If you want to back up, and we've sectioned this off pretty well that you won't miss anything if you jump back and you watch for 45 minutes. We transitioned over to the gold and the silver pretty cleanly, but anyway. Back to the gun and the investment value and stuff there. Um, people always talk about, oh, there's a run on guns. There's people are panic buying. There's an ammo shortage. There's all this other stuff. And it works the same as what you're talking about with the gold and silver with that.
Mm-hmm.
That happens with political wins. That happens when
It does.
you get a congressman that comes out and says something stupid, or a president that says something stupid, or a lot of different reasons. Obviously, guns and ammo are a good, and with standard, regular, everyday inflation you see everywhere, including the grocery store, it's going to affect the prices of that as well. With ammunition, you have other unfortunate things that can affect that with raw components.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of times if there's embargoes, there's different things going on, globally, it can affect things like that. Um, at the end of the day, though, what I will say about the panic buying and the scares and the whole thing with guns is that it's cyclical. If I've learned anything in my lifetime, as a gun owner and being in the gun culture and literally, I don't remember a time that guns were not in my life. Um, this is nothing new. So if you are out there, you are a new firearm owner, you are a new gun owner, you're freaking out because of 24 elections and maybe some ammo. Somebody said there's a scare or there's people are panic buying. Just realize that it'll come back around. It always does. It always has. It always will. It's cyclical.
Mhm.
So don't go out. We were talking about, with not only guns, but also with the gold and silver, don't overpay. Pay attention to stuff.
Yeah,
Make sure you're getting stuff at a good price. And I would say the same thing for guns and ammo. Uh, get what you got to get right now to get you done. If you're talking about, and I don't believe we're in a panic right now, but if you're in the middle of
I
a
don't believe
panic,
so. Yeah.
if you're in the middle of a panic when it comes to guns and ammo, get what you need to get you by and no more.
Yes,
And
I agree.
then when things settle down, lesson learned and stock up, right? that's how you
I agree.
that's how you do
I
that.
agree.
So
And that's how it is right now in the gold and silver community. I've actually scaled back my purchasing because of where spot prices are. So when as I head the coin show that I'm going to next month, all the excess silver that I have when I bought when spot was less than where it is now,
uh-huh.
I have the potential to make it. I'm going to be able to trade that silver for gold at a, I don't want to say gold and silver ratio because Mr. Gen X Collectible is going to hit me up about that after the show here, but
Right.
but
Right.
again, that's kind of what it is. But I'm using gold and silver ratio at the point in which I'm going to make this transaction of selling my silver to buy gold at that point, not a long look at it on a financials perspective. I'm just saying that gold silver ratio at the point of transaction, and that's going to
Right.
be at the coin show. So, Mr. X, don't flip out, and if you can beat me up about that later. But yeah, gold is sick. Gold and silver spot prices are generally cyclical too. So, like I said, I've scaled back this year. The previous years, last year, year before, yeah, I was able to buy more. So, like I said, multiple things are going to affect what the spot prices are.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. If it does dip a little bit, and next year or year after, sure, maybe it'll be a buying year next year. It might be a time, maybe a good time to buy late at the end of this year. Can't predict it. It's
Right.
too volatile. It's just too volatile. So do your research, do your due diligence. Go meet your local coin shop people. And also, I just wanted to offer, if you have questions or want to learn more about the gold and silver precious metals, obviously I have a channel here on YouTube, but you can also email me directly. And if I can't answer your question, I know where to send you in the gold and silver community on YouTube to get you an answer. So there's things I don't know, but I will point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, we're closing in on the top of the second hour here, so got to pull the plug. Anything before we get out of here that you didn't cover that you maybe want to?
No, actually, that was the whole. Yeah, I just wanted to sum
That was
up
it.
with. Yeah,
Okay.
reach out to me if you have any questions and you need assistance. And again, if it's something that I don't know, I'll find the right people and send you in their
Awesome.
directions to get those questions answered. And if I may, real quick,
Yeah.
appreciation for inviting me here onto your podcast. This is
You bet.
very generous of you.
I've
I
enjoyed it.
enjoyed it because we were able to talk two of the favorite things that I do:
Yep.
guns
Yeah.
and gold.
Yeah. We split it
And,
down. And it was
yeah.
good that it was in a special edition format rather than the regular season of my podcast because I limit those, and we spent almost an hour on the guns and almost an hour on the gold and silver. So it was good that we had the extra time in this particular format. So
I
it worked out
appreciate it.
well. Worked out well.
I hope it was beneficial to your audience and mine as well. And as we do customary in the precious metal and coin community here on YouTube, we like to gift channel members, as support and tokens of appreciation. So what you will get in the mail from me is 2 ounces of American Silver Eagles. Now, let me just give you a moment to describe. In 2021, the U.S. Mint was transitioning the reverse of the coin. And what happened was the year 2020 was supposed to be the last year of that original reverse. And I'll show you the folks in the audio area won't be able to see this, but from 1986 when they first started bringing in bullion up to 2020, they used what's called the heraldic eagle, on the reverse of the coin.
Okay.
It kind of looks like, kind of like the seal of the United States kind of look, right?
Yeah.
Well, It was supposed to stop in 2020, and then 2021, they were going to completely start minting with this on the reverse, which is the eagle carrying a, I believe, palm branch in flight.
Eagle branch, yeah.
Yeah. So, but because of the shutdown, they weren't able to completely transition all the die stamping and all the support equipment to go from one stamp to the other. So in 2021, they did a limited run of the original heraldic eagle, and then later in the year switched to the eagle in flight. So it is, I would argue, what's called a key date year for collectors, because that's the 1 year in the U.S. Mint where the reverse side of the coin had 2 symbols or 2 emblems. So token appreciation is you will be receiving one of each. They're called type 1, type 2. So you're getting those, and you're also getting some channel stickers. That's awesome. Also a big thing in our community. So thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you and your audience.
No, you bet. Hopefully we can get you back in the future and dive down some more rabbit holes that we weren't able to cover. So I've really enjoyed it.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Have a good one. All right. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. Again, if you are looking for Department of Numismatics, you should be able to click on the name in the title of this, click on the name in the description. That should be linked up. If not, then as soon as we get done recording this, the replay is up. I'll have those links down below. Obviously, in the audio podcast world, the links will be down below. Shout out to Grid 1 for throwing over the raid. Really appreciate that as well. And hopefully you guys enjoyed. Came in kind of during the middle of that gold and silver talk, but hopefully you back up and check out the gun talk, because I think that was pretty fun too. That's going to do it. Remember that if you are in the replay world out there, comment sections are down below, and even though you weren't a part of the conversation live while we recorded, you can still be a part of the conversation, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Thanks for hanging out on another episode of the Clover Tech Podcast. For all our other projects and ways you can support the channel, take a minute to visit clovertech.com. Consider becoming a YouTube channel member so you can catch these podcasts live and interact with our guests. See you on the next one.